X-Pac 12360. Featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Sean X-Pac Waltman.
Everyone joining us on the phone right now. I used to work with this guy back in the Attitude Era. Very cool guy, and I saw him this weekend at the big event, and he gave me his book, and I'm glad he did, because he says some really, really cool things about me in his book. Joining us on the phone right now, one of the Mean Street Posse, Pete Gas. Yeah.
What's up, guys?
Hey,
Thank
man.
you for having me, and it was great seeing you this weekend, bud. It's been a while.
Yeah, man. It was, and originally, I'm trying to remember the first time I'd seen you in a long time. Was it Dallas WrestleMania, or was it before that? I think it was before
that. I think we did an appearance. We both did an appearance in Rhode Island, and I think I don't know if that picture's in the book or not. There's a picture of you're doing a too sweet sign, and I'm kind of standing there looking dopey.
Well, your book, it's a neat book, and I enjoyed it. I haven't finished it because you just gave it to me this weekend, but it's from your perspective and coming into the business from like an outsider's point of view and be thrown into the mix, man, in the most amazing time ever in wrestling, and damn it, I can't remember what I was about to say.
Well, he was saying earlier that he was a big fan of you, even as the 1-2-3 Kid, before he ever even got to work with you. So then, when he finally got to the WWE or WWF at the time,
that was before he was telling me that before. But anyways, the book is called "Looking at the Lights: My Path from Fan to a Wrestling Heel," and it's got some really cool forwards. Mick Foley, Christian, Vince Russo, and Lisa Marie Vachon.
It's available on Amazon.com.
Yeah. But anyway, Pete, back to what you were saying, man. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, it's good. I mean, we were fans. I've been a fan since I can remember, and I remember watching you and being a fan of yours. As a 1-2-3 Kid, and then, when Shane called us and asked us to do a favor, and that was help him put over a match at WrestleMania, and we got to work with you. I give you all the credit in the world. I mean, you were working with a bunch of guys, including Shane, that were very green. I mean, Shane had a little bit more experience, but you were great to us. And it's funny. I was thinking about it. I knew we were doing the interview today, and I was thinking about us and our relationship and how much I care for you and all that. And I thought about it, and I remember how cool you were the first day, and how cool you are now. And to be honest with you, bro, it has not changed one bit. I mean, obviously, we got to know each other better, but you've always been a straight-up stand-up guy and cool to me. And that's why when I wrote you a little note in the book, it came from the heart, because it's true. It's how I feel about you, and I mean it. You're one of those guys. I just love you to death, man.
Yeah, it means a lot to me. I'm not trying to get all off on our own little side conversation here, like blowing smoke up each other's ass, but man, when I read the things you wrote about me, man, it made me cry a little bit.
Do you want to read it?
No, I'm not going to do all that. I don't even have the pages bookmarked.
Well, what he wrote to you, wrote to you.
Do you mind if I read it, Pete?
No, absolutely not.
To Sean, thank you for all the help over the years, but more importantly for your friendship. Pete Gas. Yeah. Very cool.
Who gave that little that ain't right. Come on, man.
Oh, that's TK here.
It was nice.
I can say
TMZK over here.
Not to speak for everyone in the room, but I feel the same. Like you're such a cool dude and such a good friend.
But Pete,
I second that.
How long have you guys known Shane? You and Rodney were actually like lifelong friends of Shane's, right?
Yeah, I mean, Rodney knew him a little longer because they were together in junior high. I met them in, like, the summer going into 9th grade. And when we all got to high school, played football together, we were inseparable after that. And it was, Shane, let's be honest, he's got a lot more zeros in his bank account than Rodney and I, even back then. But, and Shane, he doesn't act that way. he's a regular guy, you know, and he's always just a guy that, you know, got in trouble and acted like a goofball, and we always had a lot of fun. I've always told Shane, even to this day, I've never had a bad time with him, and I mean that. Wow. It's unbelievable.
The thing about Shane is his father made sure he instilled work ethic in Shane. Shane did every job there was to do in WWE from the ground up, and I'm talking about from setting the ring up, refereeing, driving the ring. He did everything. So
he did.
Yes, and that right there, that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And he was bred to run that business. Yeah, and Pete, was Shane just as seemingly fearless and like over the top when he was in school with you guys as like the Shane that I experienced?
Without question.
Yeah.
He's it's funny, is I always call him an adrenaline junkie, and I really believe that, because there used to be there's a dam in Greenwich, not used to be, it's still there, and he used to always jump off the dam, and no one knew where the low points were, the high points were, and Shane he didn't really care. He just jumped.
How high was the dam?
There were just like little things he used to do, and I always tell the story. One time we had a buddy, Mike Kate, and he had a motorcycle, and Vince always said, "Don't ride the motorcycle." And Shane would say, "Okay," and we have to walk down the street in Conyers Farm where Vince lives, and he would go ride the motorcycle. One day, Vince comes up the street with that big barrel chest sticking out, and he's like, "Boys, where's Shane-O?" And we won't stooge on Shane, and all of a sudden we didn't have to, because literally about a minute later, here comes dumbass coming around the corner on a motorcycle. And so we all saw the fear of God, because Vince looked at us and said, "Boys, time to go." And we're like, "Yes, Vince." And we get in the car, and we're all looking in the back window, down the driveway at the front door, and Vince is using Shane's head to open up the front door, just like making him headbutt the door to open it. But that was just it. We used to laugh at everyone else's pain. The
funny thing about that story is this, Pete. Many, many years later, Vince is driving a Boss Haas motorcycle with a 350 cubic inch small block motor in it, and ends up running, like somebody pulls out in front of him, and like he goes flying like 50 feet and ends up cracking his pelvis, and like he even comes to TV and gets out of the wheelchair and won't let anybody see him in his wheelchair. That's how crazy Vince was. But so it's funny, like, do as I say, not as I do. And that spills over into the story of when I was 1, 2, 3 kid, Pete. Shane had a great idea that we would go skydiving, but we just wouldn't tell his mom and dad. So Shane and I and Alundra Blaze, aka Medusa, we went skydiving, and Shane's crazy ass, he did a backward, like a freaking moonsault almost out of the plane. Like, you couldn't even, you had to pry my fingers off the door to get me out of the plane, and he couldn't wait. He's ready to do it again. Well, I was too, but anyway, it was just crazy. But yeah.
Yep.
Anyways.
Well, yeah, he's always been like that. I mean, he just he doesn't stop, and I had a story and it popped out of my head, I guess, because Bradshaw beat the hell out of me a few times, and so my memory's supposed to be. I had a couple other stories. Maybe they'll pop in my head by the time I go, but
they will.
He just doesn't. He's fearless. He really is.
Well, Pete, was there ever a moment where you were like, "Shane, don't do this"? Did you want to talk him out of anything?
Yes, we were at a party freshman year of college, and I was there, and I was trying to pick up a girl, and I had a hard enough time doing that. And Shane walks in, and him, Rodney, and a bunch of the other guys, and they decided that the party was lame, and they wanted to go to a bar because a buddy of ours made us some fake IDs. So they literally picked me up because they wanted me to come, and they picked me up, and we took Shane. Sean, I don't know if you remember this, but Shane's maid had like a lime green Lincoln Town Car. It was the ugliest thing, but Shane used to drive it at times, and we're on the highway going from Greenwich to Port Chester, New York, and Shane jumps out on the roof of the car, and he's surfing like Teen Wolf on I-95 going south. That's no lie. I mean, that's like legit. And I'm sitting in the back seat saying, "This kid's gonna die.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable."
And then so when you see like, okay, Shane McMahon is in a helicopter crash, there wasn't even a question as to whether he was okay or not, right?
So I see it's on the. I didn't even know. I'm working, and my phone starts blowing up about Shane, asking if Shane's okay. So I have no idea what's going on, and I hit the news and I see it. So I called him and I said, well, obviously you're all right because you're talking to me, and he said, yeah, I'm fine. I said, what happened? And he said, well, I was flying after SmackDown. I was flying to the house out in the Hamptons, and all of a sudden I heard a boom, and he looked at the helicopter pilot, and the pilot goes, "We're going down." And he said it very calmly. And they were over water. So Shane said, okay. So the guy deployed like some, the air, I guess whatever they call the raft that attaches to the, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And they had a safe landing. He jumps out, and he's cool as a cucumber. And the thing is, too, he won't sell anything. He could get hurt. Like when he last jumped off the cage against Kevin Owens, he was hurting, and I called him. He no-sold me as usual, and then I find out he cracked ribs and everything, and I called him back. I said, "Don't kayfabe me, because I know you always do that." And he says, "Yeah, I cracked a couple ribs. I'm a little sore, but I'll be all right."
Yeah, that's pretty much just like his old man, though, when it comes to that.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So,
yep.
Man. Hey, I was thinking about some things that I read in your book, and I probably should have them bookmarked so I could go to them. But you're talking about like teamwork and like how it was while you were putting me over huge in your book.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm so glad, because I was just going to lead into this, and you did, so it's like we're dancing now, because I actually was going to just bring this up. So I'm just going to run with it, and you cut me off if you want to add to it. So back in the Attitude Era, it was, from what I understand, it was a lot different now than it was then. We were fighting against WCW and ratings and all that stuff, but the Attitude Era, that locker room had a very team-like atmosphere. And for me to be a guy off the street as a wrestling fan, this is why the book, if anyone's a wrestling fan and you love the Attitude Era, this is a book for you, because you get to live vicariously through another fan. And so I got to have like help from DX, with the exception of Billy, because Billy's just a ball buster, but that's another story. But like you and Road Dogg would do so much to help me, and like literally like talk to me and talk to me about how to work as a heel in a tag match, and what to do, and how to cut off the ring, and all the all the great things about being a great tag team. And I never forgot that, man. And I swear to God, and I got to work. I woke up every day and I jumped out of bed, couldn't wait to get to work. And from having guys like Hunter helping me with punches and little things, and it was so much fun, and having help from Hunter, and then you think about it, DX, the biggest entity in sports entertainment, and they're helping us, the Mean Street Posse get over and become more valuable to the company. That's huge, man. But you guys didn't have to do that, and that's the thing that I'll never forget, is that it was genuine, and to me that meant everything, and it was very special to me.
Thanks, man. The thing about that is this: there's two. One part is me. I'm only speaking for myself, but I know Road Dogg is the same. We just really enjoy dropping knowledge on people and trying to help everyone out, and so that's like the more altruistic side of it. But the selfish part is this: we're at war with WCW, and we can't have anything on our show sucking. And so,
right.
And that's the thing is Pete, you were talking about this earlier, like, if your guys' deal wasn't any good, Vince wouldn't have had it on the show. And that's the truth. That's the
right.
truth,
So let's just buzz people that we were talking before the podcast, and I was, we were talking about the book, and the point of the book was the fact that we got a break from, Shane asked us to do him a favor. We didn't come to Shane and say, can we be a part of this? And then we always wanted to be a part of it. And then when we got the opportunity, we made the most of it. And I think that's the gist of the book. And the truth is, if we didn't get a rise out of the crowd, every guy in the locker room wants to get a cheer or a boo from the crowd. If you get no reaction, then you're useless and you go home. But if we didn't work hard and we didn't get that reaction, beforehand, X-Pac and Sean and I were talking, and we both agreed that we wouldn't have been there past the match with Shane versus Sean.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point of the story. And it's like, you got a fan a big fan of WWE, and then he gets an opportunity, and how he takes it from that to being a part of one of the highest rated shows when it's the Mean Street Posse versus Briscoe and Patterson, which is one
of the greatest things.
Accomplishment.
Yes. Just, I don't mean to cut you off there, Pete, but
I
just have to tell you that segment with you guys versus Pat and Jerry Briscoe is one of my favorite things, man. And the crowd went ape shit. Went completely
it was unbelievable.
ape shit. Yes. So sorry to cut you off there, man.
No, but I remember the day after that match, Shane, after we became, involved with and got contracts, we weren't allowed to drive with Shane. And Vince and Shane were driving together. We were driving home after a loop. And I remember the phone ringing, and I was driving. Rodney answered, and Shane said, put me on speaker so Gas can hear. And he said, guys, someone here wants to talk to you. And I remember, I get goosebumps every time I say this, because this is the one and only time Vince has ever said this. And he said, boys, he goes, the ratings came out. He said, you guys had the highest rated 15-minute segment in wrestling history on cable. And then he went on to say, I'm proud of you. We never heard that from him. Never heard it again afterwards.
Hey, man,
but I never heard it. And that is in my head forever.
Well, you know what? That's something that that people in the industry really like. Okay, I'm just going to speak for myself. Like I've said this a bunch of times already. I'm just going to speak for myself. When I came back through the curtain, Pete, from the ring, no matter how good I knew I did, if I didn't get that thumbs up and a smile from Vince coming back to gorilla position, it would kind of break my heart, man. I'm not going to freaking lie to you. Yeah. So those kind of positive affirmations from the boss, man, that's huge. That's Vince McMahon just said that too, So
right. So for us to never get it, we never got anything like that. Even when we were kids, I mean, we had laughs, we had all that. It wasn't like Hitler with us.
Yeah.
But for us, it was like, to get that, because we never got that. And Vince never wanted to show us any special treatment, especially with the boys, because at that time, we technically didn't have a lockdown contract, because we lost the Loser League Town match, and then that's when we were gone. But, we weren't allowed to have action figures. Now, if you're in the WWE for, a cup of coffee, you got a figure, you got a T-shirt, everything else. There were designs for shirts and stuff. Vince didn't want us to have any of that stuff. We weren't allowed to have access to the stock for for WWE when it was an IPO. There were certain things we just weren't allowed to have because he didn't want to show any favoritism towards us.
Yeah, you guys had to pay. You guys had to pay dues that I think a lot of people don't understand you had to pay. And it was me. It was you and Rodney and Joey Abs. And Joey Abs was actually a Hardy Crew guy. He was from the Carolinas. He wasn't one of your true Mean Street Posse from the mean streets of Greenwich.
He wrestled as Venom.
Right, but unfortunately, he had to pay our dues for us, or with us rather, because and I got to tell this story. I wasn't allowed to tell it on the last show I was on, but So I did an appearance back in June, and I sat next to Bob Holly. And this is one of the greatest stories I've heard, and I wish I had it for the book, but unfortunately the book was already done. So I'm going to leave. I grab my remaining books that I didn't sell, and I'm going to leave. I put them in the car. I come back to say my goodbyes. I turn to leave, and Bob Holly grabs my arm, and he pulls me in, and he says, hey, I want to tell you something, and I want you to call Rodney on your way home and tell him too. And I was like, what's that, Bob? And he goes, you're one tough son of a bitch. And I started to laugh. And I said, he goes, I don't know if you know this. He said, but after you guys came back from the Briscoe and Patterson, basically, when you guys got your contracts, and he goes, we used to try to see if we could break you guys. He goes, you guys paid your dues in a different way. I was like, yeah, well, that's in the book. I knew we had to pay our dues. He goes, yeah, but we tried to break you guys. He goes, I used to have matches with you, and I was punching you for real. He goes, I wanted to see if you were going to want to fight me, or if you were going to, bitch and moan, or whatever you were going to do. And he goes, God damn, he goes, you would come back to Gorilla, and you'd be laughing and smiling, and you having a good time. You loved it. And I started laughing, and I said, Bob, I go, to be honest with you, I knew we had to pay our dues, and I'm not going to say you didn't hurt me, because I don't want you to hit me and hurt me, but I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, I had two older brothers that used to beat the hell out of me when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I knew if you complain, you only get a bigger beating. Yeah. And I knew how the business worked. And if you became one of those guys, then the whole locker room's all over you. Yeah. And he goes, well, he goes, me, Bradshaw, Benoit, we all used to try to see if we could break you guys. And he goes, none of us were able to do it. He goes, so you guys have my respect. And that meant so much to me.
The truth
you
is,
have no idea.
I can imagine. Yeah, for sure. And it wasn't really my thing. Wasn't like trying to run guys up. That I don't get that. Like, I guess I understand why some people had that mentality. It just wasn't mine. I was always more of like, let's try to just nurture these guys, and yeah, they have to pay their dues, but let's not necessarily try to hurt them. But and that reminds me of something I said to Shane before our WrestleMania match. I'm like, if I don't really bring it, man, everyone's going to just kind of, roll their eyes and, taking it easy on the boss's son. So Shane was like, oh, bring it. Oh, bring it. And Pete, I kicked Shane McMahon harder than I think I've ever kicked another human being in my life.
Good, you should have kicked him now.
And listen, you can look at some of the parts of that WrestleMania match, and there were live rounds being thrown, especially when we had that weight belt in play.
Yeah.
Yep. And I remember you guys being involved in the match. And
can I talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I cut you off?
Yeah, because
I'm sorry.
Let me just tell you this. Let me just tell you this, Pete.
Go ahead.
Okay. When we did that little part there live during the show, like I was throwing live rounds because I didn't know whether you guys knew how to sell or not, so I just had to start throwing shit. I just had to hit you to make sure you went down.
Right. So I didn't. Again, this goes back to being a fan, and Rodney and I had to grab each one of your arms while Shane went at you, and then you were gonna break loose, and you elbowed me with your right arm across the chest, and I was told to bow up my chest, and you were gonna hit me hard. It doesn't matter because it doesn't hurt there anyway.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying to myself, I remember looking back when I got up, and I said, this is just total instinct from watching the show, being a fan. I basically said, F it. I'm throwing myself back. And if I hit someone behind me, so be it. I'm selling it and making him look good. I remember saying this in my head. And you hit me with an elbow. If you ever go back and watch, I throw myself back into the seats, and then it go forward a couple minutes later, and I'm still selling that elbow didn't hurt, but I sold that elbow shot, and I remember Lawler in the match going, Pete Gas is hurting, or whatever he said, and I'm still sitting there rubbing it and wincing. And I remember just saying, just keep selling it, because I knew it just made you look that much better.
It did,
and it was just an instinctual thing.
It was a really good spot in the match that really, really made me look good, man. And originally, I've told this before, but like when I agreed to do that match, like part of the like me agreeing to do it was that like Shane would have to put me over. Actually, so eventually things happened to where Triple H had to turn heel or was turning heel. So like it only made sense that came out and screwed me. So I ended up putting Shane over. So we added all those little things into the match where like, you know, where I got over on you guys to help build me up stronger before I got beat.
Right, keep you strong.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember during that match, Hunter actually getting after me because I wasn't selfish enough. So there was actually things added to it that I didn't, that I originally didn't necessarily want to do for myself. But I appreciate it.
That's why I really wish, like, there's two regrets in my career that I wish. One is that we got to work with Hunter as, like, against him and got to learn from him because I you know, to me, I think he's absolutely brilliant. And, you know, I mean, we did vignettes with him and he called me a buckethead and all sorts of stuff, and that was fun and stuff. But, I mean, like, actual working in the ring, like, he would teach us in the ring with punches, but to actually learn in the ring and stuff like that would have been amazing. And the other thing was, when we first started, we took a stunner from Stone Cold in Madison Square Garden on a house show. And we came out with The Rock, and it was a huge thrill. We got a stunner from Stone Cold, beers poured on us, and then The Rock came in and gave us a double people's elbow in Madison Square Garden. I mean, it doesn't get better than that as far as a jobber goes, but I just wish, and Stone Cold wasn't happy with the way we took the stunner, and unfortunately, I think because of that, we didn't get to work with him as much as, you know, I don't think he wanted to work with us. And one of my things on my bucket list is one day just apologizing, getting to say I'm sorry to him, because I really wish I had the opportunity to, because I think people would have loved to have seen him kick our ass in every city in the country, to be honest with you.
You know, Pete, you probably should, because I know for a fact he still remembers that. Like, he was mentioning it when I brought your name up. He was mentioning it. Oh, he took the worst stunner ever. Just kidding.
Get out of here! You're full of, I know you are.
It couldn't have been nearly as bad as the first one Vince ever took. That's for sure.
Oh man.
I know.
And here's something that I like to do when somebody's taking something of mine. I don't just assume they know how to take it. I explain to them in full detail how I want them to take it, and that works out a lot better that way.
Right.
Anyways, so hey, okay, we're gonna have to wrap up shortly, but I do want to talk about, you went to OVW, right?
No, I didn't get to go to OVW. I was in Memphis.
Oh, okay.
I worked for Memphis. Yeah, I was with Lawler at Power Pro Wrestling and also Memphis Championship Wrestling.
Gotcha.
And then eventually I got sent out to work with Savio, which was awesome, at out in Puerto Rico for IWA.
You learn a lot. Guys learn a lot in Puerto Rico. You learn a different way to work there. A little bit more of an intuitive way of working. Not so much, hey, everything's got to be, you know, scripted. And like you listen to the people. You learn how to listen to the people down there.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I did it when the book first came out. I did JR's podcast, and I was dying to know why the hell they sent me to Puerto Rico other than to empty my bank account, and or at least part of it. So when we got done with the interview, we were talking and, you know, reminiscing and stuff, and I said, "Hey JR, I got to ask you this question. Why did you guys send me of that whole roster in Memphis? Why was I sent to Puerto Rico?" And he goes, "Pete, I know the answer to this, and I'm not lying to you." And he said, "We saw money in you." He said, "We saw the improvement in you, and we saw the fact that you had a look." He says, "You were an ex-football player, and, you know, I had gotten down. When I first started, I was an offensive lineman body. I was about 285, and I was down to about 240, and I don't know if you remember what I was starting to look like. I actually kind of got myself in decent shape, but he said, "We saw money in you." And he goes, "When you see money, and so, you know, we thought, you know, so they wanted to teach me to do a different style, and they wanted Savio to work with me and to not be able to. They wanted me to not talk during a match. They wanted me to just go. And I remember Percy, Paul Bearer, coming out to scout things and give a report back to the company. And he said, Pete, I don't see why they wouldn't bring you up soon. And then, next thing you know, probably about a month later, I got cut. So I don't know what happened.
Oh, and then you just kind of drifted off into the sunset for a while, huh?
Well, I was told by Dennis Brent that I was going to be getting, Bob Clark, that I was going to get a call from what was his name? Dr. Death. Steve Williams was out in Japan, and I was going to get a call, and they were going to set things up, and never got a phone call from him. And then I was going to do Indies, and then Jeff Jarrett was going to do a tour of Europe and then Australia, and then 9/11 hit, and he called me and said, it's canceled. We're not doing it. And, that broke my heart because in my heart, I was like, all right, just stay involved. You never know if they're ever going to call you back. Maybe something will come up, because Shane was still involved and all that stuff. And I wanted to, but Indies weren't really doing much, and nobody was paying anything. And I didn't really care. I had a good job, so I didn't care about the money part of it, but they just weren't doing many shows.
But what's it like? But Pete, what's it like? What was your experience like going from that to just go, okay, now I'm going to go back and be a civilian again?
It sucked.
Yeah.
It was depressing. It was very sad. It was you go through a bit of depression, and I thought about it long and hard, and I think the hardest part about the business is, you love the roar of a crowd, whether they're booing you or cheering you and all that, but it's the locker room. I think you miss the locker room most of all, especially that locker room of the Attitude Era. Yeah. I think that to me was, I compare it, I remember being in college. I played college football at UConn, and I loved the locker room. But this locker room I loved more because I saw you guys. There was no off season. There was no summer break. We were together every week. Yeah. You know what I mean? And to me, it was just a special group. And I just, to me, that was the hardest thing. Was the biggest thing I miss is the locker room.
Have you ever thought about having matches again?
Sean, I told Shane, and Shane knows this. I said, if you ever called me, I said my bags would be packed and I would be out the door in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I said, I will take every damn finishing move in the company if I have to. I said, I don't care. It's just a love of the business. It's something that I loved it before I even knew Shane, and I loved it even more so now. So, it's two different levels. So,
were you bitter at all?
I watch it religiously.
What's that, bud? Were you ever bitter at all, like after you were gone? Like, was there any of that?
No.
Good.
No.
I'm glad to hear that.
When I got released, I went from Puerto Rico. I was dating a girl in Alabama. I got my car. I literally drove straight up to Stanford, and I drove home to my mom's. And then the next day, I walked into Shane's office. And afterwards, Shane said, I thought you were going to punch me in the face. And I walked up to Shane and I put my hand down and I said, thank you for the best 3 years of my life. I can never repay you. And that's Sean, right. I'm still reaping the benefits from it. It was 3 years. I maybe won 4 matches my entire career on television, maybe. I don't even know if there's that many. And I loved every bit of it. It was a blast. It was a great ride. I appreciate every moment. I love him. I love the McMahon family, and that's why how could you have a bad word to say? Unfortunately, Rodney wasn't the same as me.
Yeah.
And, they had some bad, Rodney didn't take his calls, and then by the time Rodney wanted to talk to him, Shane's feelings were hurt, and it's unfortunate. And, Rodney and I had a falling out years before that, and Shane's the one that brought us together.
Yeah.
He actually, good story, he brought us to a strip club. And he made us sit at the bar, and he says, I'm going to get a lap dance. You guys figure this thing out. We weren't allowed to leave. And then we all went back to his house, to Shane's house, and drank beer and played pool after we made up. But I tried to do the same thing. I invited them both to my wedding and sat them at the same table on purpose, but it didn't work. And it's sad because they're good. They were great friends, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like Pete. A lot of people when they leave, or when they're no longer when they're let go from WWE, they're bitter and they blame everyone. They got screwed over. Or this, it's always somebody else's fault. And I really like your attitude about the whole thing. Because really.
Sean. Yeah, the way I have to look at it is, the thing happened. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. Yeah. We made the most of it. It was supposed to be 3 weeks. It turned into 3 years, and we made the most of something that was very special in my life. And my glass is definitely half full. And I love the company, and I still watch the product, and I follow it. I'm still that fan that was a fan before I met Shane, and. Yeah. It's awesome, bro. And
you know what? You guys really contributed to the show. It wasn't like you were just, added to the show because you were, Shane's high school friends. You guys contributed and added to the show and made it a better show. Pete, what do you have going now?
Well, I have the book. The book's been out since March.
And where can we get it? Where can we get it?
You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. It's called Looking at the Lights. All you got to do is just put in the search engine or whatever, you put in Pete Gas. It'll come up, Pete Gas book, and it's right there for you. It's like $17 right now. It's on sale. It's a great holiday gift. But I work for WB Mason. They're great to me. Looking to transfer down to Jacksonville, Florida, and start another chapter of my life with my wife.
Yeah.
My wife number 2, Prince Albert. Matt Bloom always tells me, he lets me know every time I talk to him that I outkick my coverage because she is gorgeous. There's a picture of her in the book.
He's one to talk.
It's always, he is one to talk. You're right. But it's funny because I kind of turn things around and turn to his wife and say that she outkicked her coverage to make him feel good. So,
no doubt.
Yeah, I put him over all the time. So. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a new life, hopefully in Florida, and that's it. Hopefully.
No,
you never know. You never say never in the business, but if you ever call, I'll definitely come. But at 47 years old, but I don't think it'll happen.
Would you ever entertain doing independent wrestling?
I would do it. Yeah, yes. I would do it. Why not? I feel great. I'm down on my weight. And I feel good.
You look good, man. You look really good.
Thanks. I get up every morning at 3 a.m. and I drive to Connecticut from Long Island. So I'm looking forward to moving to Jacksonville, hopefully. And once I get that transfer approved, and then I could actually have some time to work out and get even healthier. So
Pete,
it'll be good.
Pete, real quick, what is your where can people find you on social media?
I am Pete Gas is my Twitter handle. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Pete Gasparino, my real name. So, but yeah, it's great, and I can't thank you guys enough, Sean. I love you, bro, and I appreciate everything you've ever done, and I just want everyone publicly to know that, because the man that has this show is definitely a guy that is a genuine person, friend, and has been since day one to me and a lot of others, and I can't begin to tell you how much I'm in your corner, bud, and I'm so glad to see you're doing good, and I love you.
I love you too, Pete. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today, man. Have a great day, man.
Thank you. You
cool,
too.
Man.
Thanks, Pete.
Too.
Wow.
Thank you, guys.
I enjoyed that.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I got this message this morning from a 203 area code, and I'm like thinking, who is it? Like, somehow it's not programmed into my phone, and so I'm thinking it's either PJ, Just Incredible, or somebody from the office, from Stanford or something. And so yeah, it was Pete, and it reminded me, oh yeah, I just saw him, and I have his book, and I want to have him on the show, and so. There he was.
That's awesome.
Perfect
timing.
And he says they'll do indie wrestling. So you versus Pete Gas at bar wrestling, or?
Well, I want to see. I just think that, Attitude Era wrestling fans would like to see Pete
Absolutely.
Gas.
I think at
Every time-
WrestleCon or something like that, if they did Mean Street Posse back together, that would draw
ever
huge.
since Shane's come back, anytime he's like, "Oh, I've got a surprise," or "I've got some ideas," or "I've got some teammates," everyone just like, "Mean Street Posse's coming back!" Like they're excited about it.
Yeah. So, hey, also, before we go, Red Star. I want to shout out to. Okay.
Not the best arm.
Star One, STARR1. They make some incredible edible products infused with THC, and they're for medical purposes. And I just want to thank them for dropping some of their product off for me to try. Wow, some of it was pretty strong. Anyways,
I think you have purple and blue in your hand, and you're used to the red.
Yeah.
So they just make all different potency of stars.
Yeah. So I'm on my Twitter account. I'm going to put them over and then put where you can find them online. And thank you, Star One, for your Red Star gummies and Purple Star gummies. Oh, and Sour Blue Star gummies as well. So, and also the Plume Vapes, who I'm wearing their shirt right now.
There's a theme.
Yeah. Anyways, anything you guys want to touch on before we get out of here?
Saturday, November 11th, you're at Real Pro Wrestling, Red, White, and Bruised in a tag team match, and then you're off to Australia.
I don't think I'm there now.
Oh.
No?
No, I think that was switched. I went and did the big event instead.
Oh, instead.
Yeah.
Scrap that. So Australia tour coming up November 24th through 27th. Melbourne on Friday the 24th. Adelaide Saturday the 25th. Brisbane Sunday the 26th. And Sydney, Australia Monday the 27th.
Yeah.
You're gonna wrestle Austin Aries, yeah?
We're going to be a team, I think. Yeah, and I have a big shipment of shirts coming.
Hell yeah.
Some really cool shirts. The one with the mashup logo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
So I'm going to be bringing those to Australia with me. I'm going to leave some of them here, though.
Nice.
But, all right, everyone. What else is going on before we go? Anything? Sundown Motel over there?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, man, I just, my sincerest condolences, man, on Bill. Am I okay to talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, man. I sent a tweet out the other day just talking about just sending some love out to everyone that's lost a pet recently, and Bill has. And,
You're part of the family.
oh, shit. I shouldn't have started talking about that.
Way to end it on a positive note.
Oh, no, but
Very
I just...
emotional episode this was.
No, I just, man, it hurt me, man. My heart hurt for you, dude.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks for the kind words.
Yeah, and so that's why Bill was gone recently. I think that's the main reason, right? Yeah. So, and TK, any last words?
You can find us at AfterBuzz TV, also The Real X-Pac for Twitter, IG X-Pac12360, and you can find me on everything at TK Trinidad.
Cool.
Everybody else has their...
Yeah.
Find me on Twitter at Jimbo in the Booth. I'll be at Bar Wrestling tomorrow.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at _ Denise Salcedo. And make sure to check out my YouTube channel. I have a new series called The Wrestling Girl, and it's on my YouTube. You can just search up Denise Salcedo.
All right. Find me at The Real X-Pac. We'll see you right here next week on X-Pac 12360 AfterBuzz TV. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Sean Waltman, producers Jimbo Frank and TK Trinidad, managing producer of AfterBuzz TV Wrestling Mark Donica, and the entire X-Pac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube. Follow X-Pac on Twitter at TheRealXpac and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz you later!